Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews. Today we are back with another brand new Mattel Jurassic World Rebirth release. Yes, the Wild Roars Wave 2 are finally out. This time we've got the Aucasaurus. And this is a pretty darn cool species. Definitely one that I am quite excited about for many reasons. But of course the fact that it is an Abelisaur is very exciting in its own right. So super happy to have this species now in the line from Mattel. And overall it looks pretty darn cool. The packaging is pretty much your standard, like it usually is. Here on the back, you've got another shot of the figure, and then a kind of little checklist down here showing off all of the other figures that are in this wave. So let's pop this box open and check it out. So here is our figure now out of the packaging, and honestly looking really, really nice. They definitely did a great job, I think, on the sculpt of this one. The paint apps are not really that great. They're very lackluster, very lazy, and there's not much to them. But as far as the actual sculpt and fine detail, it is absolutely gorgeous on this figure. Starting here in the head sculpt, you can see the head sculpt does have some very nice fine detail, a bit of variation to the scales, kind of larger scales moving along the jawline, finer scales as you move up, especially as you move further back into the head, as well as a few osteoderms and stuff poking up here and there. You do have kind of like a really dark purple that kind of shows up here in the eye area and leads up into that little crest area of the dinosaur, but you also have a reddish sort of a tone, almost like a reddish brown, but definitely more red than anything for the primary body color, and I think that actually does look quite nice. Definitely works for this figure. And another thing that's really cool is the green eyes, and they stand out so nicely in comparison to that darker sort of purplish tone that we have right there. You do have a lighter tone for the lower jaw, really nice looking scale detail, again quite a bit of variation, as you can see all sorts of larger and smaller scales there, as well as a few osteoderms moving into the back of the lower jaw. We do have the much nicer looking teeth on this. Again, they have a more genuine sharp look to them, which is a huge plus. They even have a nice shine and some fine detail within the teeth. You can see the same for the teeth on the lower jaw. Inside the mouth, you've got a very nicely textured tongue, sculpted out and painted with a pinkish tone, and the pinkish tone does move up there onto the inside of the mouth on the upper side as well. And then you even have a little nice fine detail here when the mouth is of course open, showing off the skin stretching, and everything does have a nice gloss coat, giving it that saliva-like look. And again, with the mouth closed, the dinosaur looks absolutely awesome. You do have some nice ridges moving along the top of the head, very bumpy scales as you lead along. You've got some osteoderms as well that show up here in the neck, moving down along the side of the neck. Again, more really vibrant scales, almost a little bit of an armored look to the back of the dinosaur. We also have more of that light kind of creamy color here on the lower jaw moving into the neck. Again, as you move into the neck though, it sort of breaks up and you can see some of the reddish tones within those lighter tones. And then you can also see how they kind of break up moving up into the body again, leading up there. I think the color scheme would have looked really cool had that actually continued to move through the body. But sadly, as you move down into the body itself, that coloration leaves us as you leave out of the neck, as you lead out of the neck again. It's just gone entirely. There's no smooth transition or anything. Also, there's the fax app code because I continue to forget to show those off in the reviews. But obviously, we have some more really impressive fine detail as we lead into the body. Almost a little bit of a different look to the scales. Very reptilian for sure as we move down. And you see even more of that leading out into the arms, which of course are nice and short like we would expect them to be. But there are some osteoderms and stuff poking up here through the body, kind of like some osteoderms following along again, as well as a row of osteoderm or ridges there moving along the spinal column as well. We do have more of that darker purplish tone that kind of spots again moving along the back, and that does lead down into the leg as well. As far as the arm goes, again though, you can see leading down to the hands, you've got the fingers sculpted out, the claws sculpted out, unpainted, but they do have a bit of a gloss coat, which is nice. The arms do move out away from the body, and they also of course go forward and back. They're very jerky, but you know, you can get them in a really nice, again, natural position, which I do quite like. As you move back into the thigh, you've got a few more kind of rocky osteoderms osteoderms and stuff picking up, as well as, again, more beautiful scale detail, very reptilian scale detail leading along. We've got some more of that purple spotting down here into the leg. Again, some nice muscle definition in the leg as a whole, because you see it, again, leading down into the calf muscle as well. Again, nice big bulging calf. You've got the kneecap right there. Larger scales moving down through the shin as you lead down into the foot sculpt. You've got some beautiful scoots down the toes, as well as some really vibrant scales leading around, focus, around the feet and around the toes. The claws are also sculpted nicely. Not much in the way of fine detail here on these claws, but you can see they do have, again, a gloss coat, just no actual paintwork. Same deal for the dew claw. And then you move up, and as you lead out into the tail, you've got a few more scales and stuff popping up right here, a few more osteoderms popping up, and then we lead out into the tail itself. It does come disconnected at this point, so you have to push that piece in that is a little bit separated again in the packaging. But look at the tail. It's not super long or anything, but I feel like there is a little bit of length added to this compared to some of the other Wild Roars that are out there. But as you lead out into the tail, again, the scales look really nice. Quite a bit of variation out here as well as far as the sizes. Larger scales moving along the top, kind of finer scales moving down here, and a very different style of scale detail moving along the underside, almost a little crocodilian-like, I would say, moving along the underside of the tail. And then you have a nice kind of a slight curve as you lead out with a few more osteoderms and stuff leading along the tail. But then once you reach this point, again, no osteoderms, just beautiful scales. If my camera doesn't stop, losing its focus. And then we take a look at the opposing side. You're going to, of course, see pretty much the same thing as far as the overall detail and paintwork from one side to the other. The biggest difference over here is the positioning of the leg, as the leg is trailing and the other leg is taking a step forward. But absolutely gorgeous sculpt. Definitely one of my favorite sculpted Mattel figures to come along in quite some time, and an absolutely awesome species choice. As far as the articulation goes, we did already show off the arm articulation. You do as well have leg articulation. And we're hearing some of the noises because I keep hitting the tail. The legs don't really come out away from the body like they used to, but again, forward and back for both legs. And then you do also have one spot here in the tail. I knew that was going to swivel. The rest seems to be tied to the action feature. We have the tail here that moves and operates the neck and jaw. So just trying to give you a sample there of the noises, but obviously if you push the tail up, the head goes down, the jaw snaps. You push the tail down, the head goes up, the jaw snaps, and then you can twist the neck, and of course do all of those same things as you move it around. So pretty much what you would expect when it comes to your standard Wild Roar articulation for a size, for a length from the snout to the tail, a little over 13 inches or around 33 centimeters. Actually, I'd say close to 33.5 centimeters. And then for a height to the top of the neck, about 5 and... I'd say about 5 inches, maybe like a 16th over 5 inches, or about 13 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, Robert Muldoon, and the Collect Day Human Being next to our beautiful Aucasaurus. And you can see, again, it's pretty much the same similar size range as your standard Wild Roars. I think this is another of those instances, and honestly, moving forward, I would say it's pretty much the same case all the time with the Wild Roars. If you've seen one, you've seen them all, because they don't really differ too much as far as sizes go, and you can definitely see that here. But for further evidence of that, here is the Irritator that Mattel released quite a ways back, again, that I bring in for a comparison from time to time, and you can very clearly see that these two are pretty much the same size. We've also got the Utah Raptor for the Rebirth line from Wave 1, which you can see as well, again, pretty much the same size. And then one final comparison with the Ecryxenatosaurus that Mattel had released, obviously repainted, but you can again see pretty much the same size. So this brand new Mattel Jurassic World Rebirth Wild Roar Aucasaurus is absolutely beautiful if you ask me. I might be a little partial because of the species, but I think it looks great. The sculpt is really impressive, very vibrant, fine detail from head to tail. Definitely really nicely done as far as that goes. It does, of course, have some nice articulation, but there's not a whole lot, mostly just the arms and legs that have just regular standard free articulation. You do have an articulated jaw, neck, and tail, but that, of course, is all tied to the action features, so it's not something that you can really pose all that well. unless you kind of like place like a toothpick or something in somewhere to kind of hold it in place. But it does have a fun action feature. It also does feature some pretty fun noises. You do have an okay paint job, but I think the paint job might be one of the more lackluster paint jobs I've seen on a Mattel figure in quite a little while. I do like the reddish tone of color for the body, but there's just really not much in the way of coloration on this one. Of course, no painted nails or anything like usual, but again, I do still like the reddish tone. I just wish there was more to the actual paint job. But overall, it is a really nice figure of a species of dinosaur that we do not get very often. So of course, I'm welcoming this one into my collection with massively open arms. So if you are interested in this, you can purchase it right now on Amazon.com. I will include a link in the description to where you can do so, because that is where I bought mine. So grab it if you want it, and like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.